This is the iPhone 15 Pro Max in black titanium with 256 gigabytes of storage, which retails for $11.99. I've been using it for a few weeks now, and there's a bunch that I love, 2 things that I don't, and 1 thing that's very unlike Apple.
Now, I'm not going to waste your time going through each feature individually. I'm just going to talk about things that you actually notice and things that I've actually noticed while using this phone in day-to-day life.
Now, I am coming from an iPhone 13 Pro Max, which I consider to be the most complete iPhone ever released. However, on that display, there was still a notch. Although it was shrunken, it was still pretty noticeable, and this phone has no notch but a dynamic island. And in using it, I've actually come to quite enjoy it. And it's really nice to have your timers or your music a quick long press away. There's a really nice haptic when you trigger it, and although it's not really necessary by any means, it is one of those cool and fun features that Apple always seems to nail. The other thing about the display that's new this year is the thinner bezels. When I'm looking at it from an angle or with a white screen, you can really tell how slim the bezels have become. It's impressive, it's symmetrical all around, and it's something that I honestly noticed right away. Overall, Apple has made a very comfortable iPhone with the 15 Pro Max, but it is somewhat slippery. They slightly rounded the rails and they slightly rounded the glass at the edges, but overall it's still a very comfortable phone. With this phone, and maybe it's because I have a little bit of new phone syndrome, I'm pretty worried when this phone is not in the case. It's really slippery, like I mentioned, and people have reported the black and blue finishes to be really frail.
I actually went to go test this phone out in Apple stores before I decided to pick the color that I picked, and the models that they had in store were all covered in dents and scratches, and it kind of worried me about the durability of this phone.
However, I do think that the black is the best color out of the 4, and I'm not really a fan of the colors this year, but I like the black one a lot.
And black phones tend to have better resale value if you're interested in that down the road.
Now, moving on to the cameras, I'm no camera aficionado by any means, but I did instantly notice the improved quality on the 15 compared to the 13 Pro Max. When I first opened it up next to my old phone, I could immediately understand how much better it captured light, which is really important for video. Since I shoot my entire YouTube channel on this phone, I kind of wanted that upgrade.
One of the things that I noticed with the camera that I really appreciate this year is that the video stabilization seems to be a lot better than it was, even on the 13 Pro Max.
The other nice thing that I noticed is that you can use the ultra-wide lens to shoot in 4K now, whereas on the 13 Pro Max, you couldn't. These are the things that really stood out to me as I've used this camera pretty naturally. I haven't gone out of my way to test it, but again, this video is just supposed to be on the stuff that you pick up when you normally use the device. Now let's move on to one of the things that I think is actually a little bit of a hiccup or a misstep with this phone. And although in theory having iPhone with USB-C is the right step and the next step, if you look around their lineup, half of their accessories still have Lightning, and half of mine do too, and maybe yours do as well. So I'm still in the stage where I have to carry my Lightning cable around and my USB-C cable around if I want to charge my AirPods, my MagSafe charger, and my phone. I wish Apple were a little more aggressive with this transition to USB-C and did it all at once instead of doing it piecemeal like this.
By the way, if you're still watching at this point and you're really enjoying the video, I would love it if you left a like or a subscribe. It really lets me know that I'm doing the right kind of thing for you guys and making videos that you guys find helpful.
Next, the other misstep that I'm not sure how I feel about. The action button. The old iPhones had an alert slider, and it's been that way pretty much since they came out, and I used to fidget with that thing all the time. It had the most satisfying haptic when you triggered it, and I used to just mess with that when I was in line somewhere or just anxious about something or just bored, honestly, and it was a really nice fidget tool. Now, with the action button, it's just not the same. The haptics are still there, but it's just not as satisfying. The other thing with the action button is that although I'm left-handed, I use my phone with my right hand a bunch, and I can't really access the action button without doing a little bit of a shimmy or gymnastics up to the top. To Apple's credit, I do use a custom shortcut on the action button, so being able to trigger a reminder from anywhere is pretty awesome, actually. A little bit of a mixed bag for me. Overall, I think it's better than not having it, but there are a few things I miss with the alert slider. And finally, there was one thing that was honestly really not like Apple when it came to this phone. It was the fact that on the back glass, the bottom part of it actually abruptly ends into the rail in a way that actually makes the bottom really sharp. Like the other 3 edges of your phone, if you look at your phone right now, it's very smooth. Everything is very tightly controlled and nice transitions everywhere. But on the bottom of my phone, there is this really sharp transition. And you can actually feel it when you rub your finger along the bottom rail. I looked this up on Reddit, and apparently other people have been having this issue with the glass as well. And that combined with the weird proneness to scratches on the newer models, it's a little bit unlike them to have these products that are really expensive but kind of frail or not put together very well. But outside of my little quality assurance mishap, this upgrade is extremely noticeable in a lot of ways, which is kind of contrary to what I've been seeing on the internet about the phone recently. If you're upgrading from a 13 Pro or older, you will definitely notice a lot of these things in your day-to-day use with the phone. Does that make the upgrade necessary? Probably not, but it is something that you will appreciate if you decide to take the jump. If you're interested in seeing how this phone holds up after 6 months, a year, and then a few years, definitely subscribe, and I have more tech videos on other topics coming your way soon. That's been it. I'll see you guys next time.